Welcome to the Real People, Real Answers with Mike Rowland.
Welcome to Real People, Real Answers with Mike Rowland, where hardworking people get clear answers after serious accidents and injuries. Michael Rowland is managing partner at Rowland Yager, a North Carolina firm with decades of experience helping people through life's most difficult situations. I'm Lisa Mosbey, your host, and today we're talking about mistakes that can hurt your injury claim after an accident. Great to see you, Mike. Thanks for joining me today.
Great to see you as well.
Mike, how do people accidentally hurt their own injury claim after an accident without even realizing it?
Well, a lot of things can happen. I mean, in the moment, your adrenaline is going, you're not thinking very clearly, and you're just trying to process what just happened. One of the things that people do that is a big mistake is it's a natural human tendency to say, I'm sorry, even if it's not your fault. Some people say, I'm sorry for everything, and it's not their fault. And so saying I'm sorry implies that you were to blame. So if the other person was negligent, that's probably one of the worst things you can do. Another problem that people have is they say, I'm fine, I'm not hurt. And you don't even know what really happened at that point because the adrenaline's kicked in. The pain may be masked truly by the adrenaline. And so making those types of statements initially can be very problematic.
And I want to get into some of the injury issues, but first, it's really important for people to get checked out. Why can missing medical appointments after an accident create problems for an injury claim later on?
In my experience, what I have seen a lot of things happen is somebody's hurt, but they don't want to create a bigger fuss. Maybe they've got somewhere to go, and maybe they should go to the hospital by EMS, and they refuse EMS treatment. That's going to hurt them later on because the adjuster, and they do notice this, and they do say something about this to me when I'm working through the claim with the adjuster. Hey, EMS came out, your client refused EMS treatment. And so, they try to say, well, they weren't really hurt, or a statement, I wasn't really hurt, or failure then to go and do a checkup at the hospital or urgent care, and then days go by and they have not gone to see a doctor. And so waiting and waiting and waiting can cause huge problems for the client and also for me as the attorney later on to try to explain, yes, they were hurt, they had these things going on, they thought it was going to go away. I've got to explain all these things versus if they had gone and gotten checked out immediately, they'd have a record of that. That would document that the accident took place, document their injuries. And then if a day or so goes by and they're feeling worse, they do a follow-up care. That's critically important too. That can either help your case or hurt your case if you don't do the follow-up care that you need to do. It's kind of old-fashioned. If you're sick and your mom or grandmother said, hey, rest in bed, here's some chicken noodle soup, you need to take it easy for a little while and rest and get better, okay? Hard-headed people, like me, perhaps, go on into work, and they try to fight through everything. And maybe they've got pressures that they've got to pay the bills, they've got to take care of their family, the mortgage is coming up next week, the rent is coming up next week, power's coming due. They've got to put bread on the table. And so they're sacrificing themselves and their own good health for their long-term, recovery because they want to take care of all this list of things that they've got to do. So that's a huge problem. Take care of yourself. Be a little selfish right now and make sure you reach 100% maximum medical improvement. That's very critical.
Yeah, and it's our responsibility as adults to take care of ourselves, even though we want to just skip that step, and we hear it so often, don't we?
Absolutely. I often look at it, I'm sorry, but I often look at it like, the antibiotics. It's easy to take the antibiotics when you feel bad, okay? When you start feeling better about halfway through the course of the antibiotics, you stop taking it because you don't feel miserable anymore. You don't have that reminder that, I really need to take this because I feel like I'm dying. You start perking up, but the doctor's going to tell you, finish your course of treatment.
There's a reason for that because those bugs can come back stronger if you don't get rid of them completely. Same with injuries. We can't fix them if we don't know they're there, and they just get worse over time while we're waiting. Can posting on social media after an accident end up affecting an injury case in ways that people don't expect?
Absolutely. And In this day and time, we've got all these different types of social media. We've got, old-fashioned Facebook now, right? And then you got Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all this stuff. And so there's probably a half a dozen more that I'm missing. And everybody has this thing where they feel like they've got to disclose everything that they're doing. And I'm just like, why don't you just keep it to yourself for a little bit? And that stuff, even if you take it down, there's a record of it somewhere. There's a record that can be recovered, and the things that you say in that social media post can come back to haunt you, and you're going to be held to that. That's a recording. It's like a confession. And so, you change your story from when you posted on social media. Everything's fine. We're okay. Terrible accident, but we're all good. Well, then 2 or 3 days later, you're not all good and you're really miserable. That's going to come back up, especially if your case goes to trial.
Can you post, just pray for me, I was in a car accident, or don't post anything at all, or, put a couple of pictures up? Where do people get in trouble? Is it just the whole thing? Or, because it's so tempting to let your family and friends know, hey, this happened. I just want y'all to be aware.
Listen, my advice, I'm a lawyer, so I'm going to give you my perspective, right?
Yes.
So I would say less is more, okay? I wouldn't even post pray for me or any of those types of things. The people that you know and care about, you can send them a message, a text message, call them on the phone, tell them what happened. And those people are going to know. And so, it's up to you. Of course, you can do what you want to do, but I'd be very, very careful. I handle a lot of cases in a small town practice. We do a lot of personal injury cases, but we handle criminal cases, family law cases as well. And, I tell people all the time, whatever you post on social media or text to people, imagine if it was blown up as an exhibit in court and it was on the big screen, okay? If you feel like that's going to embarrass you or hurt your case, it's probably not something you should put out there. That's just my general advice. Keep some things a little bit more private. That's what I would do.
And I agree. I'm really glad we're driving that point home. It's so important. We talked about the don'ts. Don't wait too long to seek treatment. Make sure that you get in and have yourself examined so you know where your situation lies. And don't be posting on social media. I want to get into the injuries a little bit. Saying I feel fine after an accident really can end up hurting your case if symptoms show up later. Is that true or false?
I think that is very true. I deal with these cases every day of the week, and I can tell you, I hear this from adjusters all the time. Well, your client said that they were fine at the accident. Like we talked about earlier, they refused EMS treatment. They didn't go to the doctor, for 2 weeks after the accident. Or they didn't go, worse yet, a month or a month and a half. And so, how do we know that this accident actually caused the injuries? How do we know that they didn't have something happen at home and now they're trying to take advantage of us?
So, Mike, can waiting too long to talk to a lawyer make an injury claim harder to handle later?
I would say yes. And I get it. I get it because, look, everybody tells lawyer jokes, okay? I get it. Nobody wants to go see a lawyer, and nobody wants to be seen as the person who is going to see a lawyer. Oh, that means I'm greedy. I'm not a nice person because I'm going to talk to a lawyer. No, what you're doing is you're educating yourself. You're allowing yourself to have knowledge. They say knowledge is power, right? So most lawyers for injury cases do a free consultation. I would obviously say if you're anywhere near us, give us a call, come in for a consultation. But even if you can't physically come in, you or a family member could call on the phone and we could give you some general advice. And then if you feel comfortable with us, we're happy to take your case and handle it and help you through it. But if you don't go to see a lawyer right away, then there's a whole host of mistakes that you can make. And it can absolutely hurt your case as you move forward. I talk about it a lot, but insurance companies want you to give a recorded statement. Those recorded statements can be claim killers, especially if you don't have an attorney present. I very rarely let my clients do recorded statements. If they do them, I do them with them, and I'm there because guess what? The insurance company is looking for ways they can work out a way to not pay your claim, to deny your claim, which is especially important in North Carolina. We're in North Carolina, and we're one of the few states that still has contributory negligence, which means if you are 1% at fault, the insurance company can absolutely bar your right to recover anything. Now, most states have moved away from that, but in North Carolina, it is critically important to understand that. And so when you're being interviewed by the insurance adjuster, they're not your friend. They may soft sell you a little bit. They may act very nice. They may give you some pleasantries, but really they're looking to see if they can pull the rug out from underneath you. If you don't have an attorney, you can kill your case before it starts.
And I don't think people realize that the 1% at fault can kill your case. It's not true for every state, but it is critically important here. What happens if someone repairs their car and gets rid of the damaged property before properly documenting everything?
That's a great question, and that happens a lot. A lot of people don't think about the car. They will just want it back on the road, or they want to get a new car, or whatever that may be. And you think, well, the car is the car. The injuries to me are the injuries to me, but the damage to the car is what I would call evidence of force. Okay. Now, the insurance company, if there's no damage to the car, they're going to raise that issue. Say, oh, very minimal damage to the car. The person couldn't really have gotten hurt. And there's a whole host of reasons why somebody could have gotten hurt if the car didn't have severe damage. And the sudden change of direction, sudden change of force can still create a lot of injuries for people, especially if it was unexpected, or maybe they were turned in an awkward position when the force took place. But pictures of a damaged vehicle, especially if there's significant damage, can help illustrate the point that, yes, this was a significant injury, significant crash. I just dealt with a case like this week, and I'll try to explain it for folks who don't understand it. Policy limits means they're offering whatever money they have, the full money that they have on the policy for the at-fault person. Okay, I was dealing with this situation, and the adjuster was asking me for 5 years of medical history to prove that there weren't pre-existing injuries, et cetera, et cetera. And so I said, hey, I need you to really take a look at these pictures of the damage to the car. And tell me, if you don't think that this was a significant crash. And I sent over the pictures, and once the adjuster had a chance to look at the pictures, they're like, whoa, okay, absolutely. I get what you're saying with the medical evidence that we already have. I'm not going to need the 5-year medical history. We're going to go ahead and tender our full limits. We're going to offer everything that we have, basically, to get this claim resolved. And so those pictures helped get the job done. And so even though they were of the car, it helped for the adjuster to appreciate the significance of the force that took place in that crash. And they said, okay, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up.
Yeah, we just don't know what they're going to be looking at, so keep it all. Which leads me to ask, how important is it to keep track of missed work, medical bills, other expenses after the accident, and what are the best methods to do that? How do we keep track of those things?
That's another great question. And when we meet with people initially, we try to guide them through this process. One of the things I recommend is get just a spiral notebook. It's something, a one subject notebook, maybe something with some pockets so you can keep important information in some folders or whatever. But just do a daily journal. And in that, record what you have been going through. What limitations have you had? Did you have a good night's sleep? Did you have, significant pain? Did you have, here's the thing, when you get better, you're going to forget about a lot of stuff. So, did you have trouble putting your socks on? If you're a lady, did you have trouble putting, your bra on? Did you have trouble in the shower? Did you have trouble getting out of bed? Did you miss work today? How much time did you miss from work? What was your pain level throughout the day? Were you able to manage to make it through the day without, any significant issues? Those things all are important to record, because you're going to move on from this. You're going to forget about, the things that you've been through. And all I'm saying is take 5 minutes. I'm not going to grade you on it, right? It's just for recollection, and it helps your attorney, whether it's us or somebody else, to be able to say, this is what my client went through. It's not just a bunch of numbers. It's not just some medical records, but this is how the accident actually affected my client and their lives. And this is the limitations that they had. And here's the deal. Unless you've been through a car accident, you have no idea how disruptive it is to your life. And unfortunately, like a lot of people live paycheck to paycheck. And so, you get out of work for a week or two. And so you've got the physical complications, you've got the brain fog, you've got the poor sleep, you're miserable, your life is disrupted, but you get a week or two behind on your paychecks. And hey, that can affect your mortgage. That can affect your power bill. That can affect everything. And it's a series of dominoes that nobody wants to think about and nobody prepares for. And so it's so critical that you document all those things so that we can try to recover fully for what the accident did to you.
Mike, where I want to wrap it up today is we may have a listener who has been in an accident and they didn't call an attorney. They were just working with their insurance company to try to resolve these things. Things may not be progressing well for them. Can they call an attorney now? Is there anything that you can do stepping in if someone waited too long?
We can. It's not the preferable way to do it. And the way that I would describe it is this. A lot of people are self-reliant. A lot of people, like in America, we're pull ourselves up by the bootstraps, right? We're Americans, so we can do it all. And so we think just because we can talk and think for ourselves that we can handle legal matters for ourselves. And the equivalent that I give to that is you can obviously go into the garage and pull out your own tooth if you have a bad tooth. Or you can go to the dentist and see if they can repair it, okay? It's much, much better to go to the dentist and see if they can repair it. They're the professionals. They know what they're doing. The adjusters on the other side of the equation are professionals. They're trained. And what do you think they're trained to do? Close the claim as quickly as possible for the least amount of money as possible. The more that you're talking to them, the more that they're building their case against you. And I don't care if they're being mean or if they're being nice. Their job is evaluated by how they can close the claim for the least amount of money. And so they're working against you, even if they're acting real nice doing it. So yes, you can hire an attorney at any point in time. It's better to do it on the front end of the case than on the back end. And here's why. If you are doing your home repairs yourself and you're not a handyman, okay, you can go in there and fiddle around and you could create a house fire or you could flood your bathroom. Now you call in the electrician. Now you call in the plumber. Yeah, they can help you, but you got a bigger mess than you would have had if you'd called them in the first place. And so, I get it. We're self-reliant people, but look, everybody's good at something. I've been doing this for 29 years. I've got a great team of people that work with me directly, and we know how to navigate all this red tape, all the loopholes, all the stuff. And we can let you focus on getting healthy and getting back to work. And that is so critically important. So call the lawyer sooner. Obviously call Rowland and Yager. Where else would you call, right? But I would say no matter where you go, make sure you're comfortable with them and let the professionals handle that for you so you can get back to your family, get back to life, and doing the things that you do best.
Well said. This has been an excellent episode. Thank you so much for walking us through all the details and the particulars. We appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. I appreciate you as well.
That's it for today's episode of Real People, Real Answers with Mike Rowland. If you have questions about your rights after an accident or want to learn more about your options, you can visit rowland-yager.com. Thanks for listening, and be sure to like, subscribe to the show, and leave a review if you found this episode helpful. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.